Hi, folks. Welcome. My name is Lisa Kaplowitz, and I am the co-founder and executive director of the Rucker Center for Women in Business. We are so excited to have you with us here today. You are in for a treat. We are here with Dana Bernstein, a conflict resolution coach. And she's going to talk to us about conflict to collaboration, how to excel in critical conversation and politics at work and at home. Now, I just want to brag about Dana for a little bit, and we're going to give you some information on how to find out more. She is a conflict resolution coach, author, and trainer, and specializes in skills that sometimes they're called soft skills, but they're really hard to develop, such as de-escalation, negotiations, contracts, difficult conversations, and navigating uncertainty. She came out with her latest book. It's The Thought That Counts: Mastering the Art of You versus You. And there's the book. We're going to give you a little nugget, a little teaser on that now. She has a master's in dispute resolution from Montclair State and is a court-appointed volunteer mediator. She also is the co-director of the chapter programs at ISF New Jersey and holds the ICF credential with over 2,500 coaching hours. So lots of information on how you can get to her, find her, etc. Thank you, Dana, for being with us. Just want to give you guys a quick overview of what we are at the center and thank our partners. We are a research center at Rutgers Business School. These are our amazing partners. Without them, we could not do what we're doing because we are independently funded. But we do get the support of Rutgers from, research, et cetera. And we really do three things: remove barriers, build community, and empower women with confidence and skills to succeed in the workplace. And we are really, I think this conflict works so well. We have never been about zero-sum solutions. We know that if we build a workplace that works for everyone, that's going to work for women and men and any gender that you identify with. We know we need to acknowledge different perspectives. From our research, we know that those perspectives are people's realities, and we need to really engage in this both and thinking. Two things that might seem conflicting and competing could be true at the same time. And we really encourage people to have shared experiences because that will encourage trust and bring us closer together. So with that, I want to turn it over to Dana, and I'm excited to be a student today.
Yay. Well, thank you, Lisa and Viviana, and thank you for having me. I am a Girl Scout. I still volunteer for our girls. I think it's so important to make sure that they are supported. So, and my daughter, who is 23, is also a Girl Scout leader of two troops, one in Montclair and one in East Brunswick, where I live. So let's talk about conflict. It's made up. It's all in our head. We think something, that perspective, and then that's what gets us upset. So let's start maybe workshopping why we get upset so we can calm ourselves down, de-escalate ourselves, and then we can have those critical conversations wherever, at work, at home, and we'll go from there. And there's my LinkedIn, and you can QR code it and get more information, and that's that. So grab a pen and a paper if you want to workshop it. If not, I'm always available to talk offline because sometimes in these quicker webinars, it's like, oh, I don't have time to think as much. So I am here if you need me, and just a phone call away. The most important thing in life, I think, my opinion, is to build relationships with other people that, period, who you have issues with, you get along with. That relationship building for me is critical, whether you're doing contracts or negotiations. But the most important thing is to have that relationship with yourself. Your relationship with yourself is the longest lasting relationship and the most important you will ever have in your life. And sometimes we do a lot of focusing on outside stuff, but I want to suggest that we also focus on ourselves, feeding our own soul, making sure that we're whole and complete. Because at the end of the day, that best self is going to be what helps you get over the issues, over the conflict. That calmer tone sets the tone for everybody else to be more collaborative. And we all know this, right? When our nervous system is regulated, there's a power source in there. The minute we feel disenfranchised or anything, right? We start losing that power, and that affects us being our best self while we're handling conflict. So in our time today, our agenda is conflict is a construct. We're going to do a very simple pause, ponder, pivot method. And then we're going to open it up to questions. So here we go. So every day we have challenges. And every day you overcome those challenges as your best self. So picture like this is your little mountain there, and here are the challenges. We have not gotten anywhere in life without figuring out our stuff. So we have all done it. We've all operated as our best self. But what happens is the minute we layer thoughts on, I can't do this, I don't know, this person's annoying, they're difficult, I don't blah, 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 right? All the thoughts on top of it create this large mountain of conflict. What we want to do to break down the conflict is to separate it, internal and external. External conflict is like, well, how do you do something? How do you have that crucial conversation? What are their steps? How do I start with the hard stuff first, the easy stuff first? There's tactical things. Internal conflict is what is stopping you, a whole complete human being, from overcoming this. Why in this particular moment is this thing an issue? And that's that internal piece of all of those layered thoughts that we want to start unlayering, taking off the jackets that don't belong to us, that we've been wearing, that are weighty, old conversations that we've had with ourselves. All of that is that internal conflict that is stopping you from doing the thing that you do beautifully every single day. So I am huge on separating things externally and internally. External identity is one of them. You're someone's child, obviously. You might have a spouse, kids, your aunt, aunts, uncle, whatever it is, all that outside family stuff. We have physical attributes. Some of us are short, tall. We have different hair colors, eye colors. Education, as Lisa was saying, my outside stuff, right? I'm a degree holder. I do this and that. I'm all these other things outside, but internally, I'm a whole other person. Some of us define ourselves by our job. And some of us even define ourselves by our feelings. I'm feeling miserable today. Like I'm feeling all these things. Those are the layers that you put on top of yourself. And what I say is blah, blah, blah. That's the outside stuff. Who we are as people is this internal identity. It's our values, that moral compass, those non-negotiables by saying everyone should act like this. This is how I do it, right? Everyone should do this. Everyone should be independent. Like that's one of my big ones, right? Pillars. That's that gooey best self that we're going to be working on today. Those are our core characteristics. And we wouldn't be us solving conflict and doing things without them. And then we have an ideal emotion, what we want to feel every day. And if we can aim towards that internal identity, we have a better chance of solving conflict, having those conversations, overcoming challenges. And in the book, there's a bunch of exercises. It's an interactive book, so it's there, or just contact me and we'll do it. So there's a great story about an elephant and a rider. So the rider is that intellectual brain. You're like, yes, let's do this thing. I want to go to the gym. I want to have this conversation. And your feelings are like, yes, let's do that. And that elephant is sitting there lockstep. That elephant are your emotions. And when both of those are in the same direction, you get the thing done. But something happened and it made you upset. And now you think that internal identity somehow was attacked. Maybe you're upset because someone crossed your non-negotiables. Can you believe that, I've been doing this job for 20 years and my boss now tells me what to do? Like, honestly, and my independence value will be very loud. And why I think conflict is made up is maybe you have a value of teamwork. And you're like, yes, my boss is involved and this feels great. And I'm so glad to have that voice in, right? So conflict is really dependent on that internal self and how that perception is framing the thing that happened. Sometimes we wake up and we're just not feeling like ourselves. Like, oh, I'm just not feeling like my me today. And sometimes we get triggered. We have, all of us, one internal inner critic voice that says, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not wanted. Like, but we all have one. And we can identify that, later on, it's in the book, but just know that that trigger is a lie. You are a fantastic human being. You've always overcome things. And when that inner critic starts talking to you, just put her in the back seat. A little duct tape on Ralph. But heightened emotions does not help resolve conflict because we are not acting as that best self. So when our trigger is activated, the I'm not statement, we feel demotivated, demoralized. When our pillars are suppressed, we're a shell of ourselves. Like, oh, I'm just not, like, my me is community, right? Like, oh, I'm just not feeling it today. And like, I'm just going to feel just not right. And I'll feel anger or frustration if my values are crossed. When I have competing values, I can't make a decision. When two things are fighting and they're both really important, they're in my internal identity, I have to pick one and say, okay, you do the driving, you sit in the back seat. And when I have these heightened emotions, when anyone has it, that creates that internal conflict, those layers that I was talking about that makes a challenge into a conflict. And managing conflict by not being your best self is just like eating Oreos and brushing your teeth at the same time. It is impossible to do what you want to do as effectively as you want to do when you're not aligned with yourself, when you're feeling like your values are crossing each other. We all can get through things, sometimes not as our best self, but then we kick ourselves and say, oh, I could have done this better. And then Lisa was saying a story earlier about something, and she's sometimes afterwards like, oh, sometimes I think maybe I could have done it better. Then she looks back and she says, no, I did it great. But that moment of I could have done it better is not acting as that best self. Maybe a value got mixed in the mix, right? So what do you do? The solution is to pause, ponder, and pivot. Very simple. We want to create space between the stimulus and the response. So something happens. Someone said something, someone did something. Maybe you did something and you weren't so proud of your work. If you have an excellence value, sometimes that happens. But something happened, and immediately there's this emotion. You want to pause and just take a breath. So then the next step in the pause, ponder, pivot thing is to ponder your thoughts. And the nice thing is that the exact same words that make you tick, your values, your pillars, your ideal emotion, are the same words that tick you off. It's a small bucket of words that you can look at and say, wow, I understand myself. I understand why I'm upset about this thing. Because if it didn't hit your internal identity, it's not going to bother you. And then we pivot. When our emotions are calmer, we think about like, oh, I understand that my independence value was hit or my excellence value was hit. I'm going to now pivot to what I could do about the thing. Conflict is only solved with that forward-facing lens. So how do you build a bridge with yourself or others? How do you be a space for others to do that so you de-escalate everybody? And then you can create that joint resolution and have that robust conversation. But how do we know what that best self is if we haven't actually labeled and framed it? And this is where grab your pens or just think about it, because in the moment it's hard to do. So this is our sample exercise. I'm going to explain it, and then Viviana is she's been volunteered to hop in and do the thing, right? Think about a time when you were your most best, fantastic, wonderful self. It could be friends and family. It could be a thing that happened in childhood. Mine was in my 20s, so many, many years ago. But everything just melted away and you were in that moment. And we're going to talk about from that moment, pulling out a few core characteristics of that best self. And then we're going to use her as jackets, right? To like figure out how to get things done. We're going to measure it at some point after the webinar. You could think about it. Like if you took those core characteristics away, would you still be you? And then if stuck, I gave a little sample because sometimes it's hard to think in the moment about ourselves because we're so often thinking about others. So, Viviana, you ready?
Yes.
All right. Identify a time when you were so stinking happy that it just was, you were in your element.
So going to live music would be my answer for that.
All right. So why? Who, if you had to name some things, like what were you feeling or doing when you're doing that live music?
Being in the moment, just enjoying, what's in front of me with people who are there because they are also supportive of whatever act is performing.
Yeah. So from that, it seems that you have, I mean, music is creative, so I'm going to assume there's some creativity around there. And you talked about being in the moment, which is being present, and connecting with others. So if we're looking at this as an example, you could pull things out like thematically. So something around creative, something around present, something around connected or community. Thoughts?
Yeah, that's definitely accurate.
So what happens when you're not present?
Some of that, dysregulation that you had mentioned happens.
Yeah. And when you have to solve conflict, if you had to pick a jacket to wear out of connective, creative, present, or community, which would be the most effective one for a challenge that maybe you're facing right now?
Probably connection, because oftentimes in conflict you feel disconnected from the person you're disagreeing with.
Yeah, yeah. And if I gave you my jacket of like, I'm community, passion, laughter, and peace. So externally, wife, mother, daughter, brown hair, turning white. But internally, I am community, passion, laughter, and peace. That's my best self. So if I said, "Oh, Viviana, just make them laugh," or something like that, would that work for you?
No, probably not.
Yeah, because it's not your best self. So you wearing your best shoes of connected, creative, present, and community is all about how your voice comes out. And for me, I would probably maybe use laughter a little bit to disarm
Mm.
and then build some community. So I'd have different jackets that fit myself. So this is how we apply our pillars to the issues that we face, right? And our pillars have always been there. This is not something that's probably new to Viviana. She's always said, okay, this is who she is, but maybe now she has the words to use them with intention. And maybe if you look back, you would realize that that's every time you overcame a challenge or had a hard conversation or achieved a goal, those four words were the ones that are prominent. You've just now given them a formality. And think about what your life would look like if you chose to be that best self every day, even if it's at a 1%. Like you're not feeling it, I'm not doing, but I can muster up enough a little bit to kind of tip the scales at a 1%. So the other piece of our internal self and what we can declare is, what do we want to feel every single day of the year? At the end of the day, share in the chat. What do you want to feel? So my ideal emotion is freedom, peace, set free, yeah, happy, fulfilled. When we identify what we're aiming for, we're more apt to get there. So if I know that I want to feel freedom every day, or Kim wants to feel happy and fulfilled, or Jocelyn piece, you're more apt to say, what will bring me to that feeling? If I had a choice to make, path A or path B, I could stay in my job or I could choose another job. Which would make me more, for me, freedom, but for you, Kim, it would be happier, fulfilled. And you can use it almost as a measuring stick to say, how we do this. It's we look at things, men and women look at things very differently. So it's interesting to see all these studies that Lisa does. Freedom is definitely power. Absolutely. Without a question. Because you have the power to step away. No matter what happens in life, you have the power to say, I'm not playing in that. I am not getting involved. And you take your power back by saying, I'm going to focus on fulfilling my stuff. Loving and loved, Carmela. So on a scale from 1 to 10, those who are posting in the chat or just thinking about their ideal emotion, 10 being the most, how much do you want to feel that every single day? But be realistic. So for me, I would like to feel freedom probably at a 6 or a 7, somewhere around there. Yeah. You have a place to aim. And then you have a measuring stick, right? So when you're not feeling your pillars at that level, right? Whatever that you've, empathy and all the things that you've talked about at, for Jocelyn a 5 or Lori a 7 or Anne an 8, whatever your number is, check in with yourself. Your emotions will tell you if you're in the right spot before you could say, oh, I wonder what my thoughts are. So your body is the thing that keeps the score, not your thoughts all the time. So that's why checking in with your feelings and saying, how am I feeling today? Am I feeling, for me, freedom at the level of a 6 or a 7? And if not, I'm going to say, okay, how do I feed my community? How do I make people laugh? How do I make myself laugh? So it's this just a check-in system with yourself. So we have that pause, ponder, pivot, right? We want to pause and breathe, just accept that these are the emotions that we have, that something happened and I wasn't happy about it. Give your elephant some time to do its thing. Then you ponder, did it hit a value? Was I not acting as my best self? Like what actually is going on? And then this is where we're at to start pondering and de-escalating ourselves. We want to find out, why are we upset? What values were crossed? Because solving that helps you just take the wind out of it. It's almost like when you have a sinus infection and you're like, oh, I have a sinus infection. I know what it is. I know how to solve this. When you don't know, it makes your head spin a little bit. So values getting crossed is one of the main things that are part of your internal identity and why you get upset. And a few ways to discover your values is thinking about why you have pride in a thing that you've accomplished, or themes of why you get upset, or some non-negotiables about how you think the world should act. At the end of the day, they are not your values if they don't evoke an emotion. So I have high integrity and high ethics, but I don't have an issue if you don't have those, right? So it doesn't bother me at all if something happens, or honesty or transparency. It doesn't evoke an emotion. I might look at you as bad character, but it doesn't bother me. And for some, it does bother them. Respect, fairness, teamwork, honesty, tenacious, sincerity, collaborative, empathetic, kind. Yeah, these are your values coming out. And as I've mentioned, emotions are the final say. When you are living your values and being your pillars, you're automatically feeling your ideal emotion at that level that you had said, that 5, the 7, the 8, whatever it is, right? And as soon as something happens and it throws you out of alignment, that's when you have to maybe take that pause and say, okay, how do I just breathe for a minute? Why was I upset? And how do I get back to my base? And it's just that 3 simple steps to just de-escalate before you have that conversation. how do we use our thoughts to get over the challenges that we have? How do we call up our best self? Anyone have like a mantra that they tell themselves when they are facing something and they have to calm themselves down? Sometimes I add more to my plate than needed, a lot of times maybe. And then all of it happens at once, and I have like 3 or 4 things that are competing, and my mind starts reeling and I start looping. And I'll say, just one thing at a time, Dana, just one thing at a time. And it just calm myself down. Faith, prayer, I believe in myself and my skills. Very nice, Gina. Think about the 2 different ways, right? The conflict in the moment where you have to have that difficult conversation like right now because something happened and you are like, how do you calm yourself down there versus when you have moments to think about it and you could take that drive like someone had talked about, or you could sleep on it like Lisa had said. So there's the 2 different conflicts that you can face, but have different ideas of what are some ideas to do to calm yourself down so that calmer you is the one that responds instead of the reactive self that's going to say something. The other thing is, this is why it's important, is because people are mirroring your behavior. When you are escalated, when you are feeling so heightened with your emotions and you're souped up, people feel that. And the idea is to resolve conflict with that forward-facing lens. You want to model how you want that interaction to go. You want to be able to say, all right, let's create some space here so we could talk about this with going forward. It's not you versus the other person solving the issue. You want to make that other person your partner so you could solve the issue together. It's like that marriage adage. It's not you versus your spouse versus the problem. You want to have you guys working as a team going forward. Whatever it is, whether it's a conversation or a behavior change. And you want to think about, really, do you care about this other person or an information exchange? And if not, and you need to resolve the issue, give yourself that time, because how you show up matters. And when you're generally interested in that information exchange, other people will feel it. And then that we were talking about with Viviana, that connectedness happens, right? That you could solve the issue together. But when you're not ready, maybe don't open up the door.
Dana, I want to thank you. It's good. It's so great to always step back and think. And it's also particularly challenging when our values and our best self and our best work might be different than emotionally as well, because you're pouring so much into it that then you just need to stop and take a break. And I just want to acknowledge that for some people as well.
Yeah.
Um,
And sometimes realizing that your values are not their values. And that's probably why you have a conflict. But if we each play by different rule books, like I talked to someone the other day, and when she did the values exercise, one of her values is kind, and her husband does not have a kindness value. Not that that's bad or wrong, it's just he doesn't. And he had said something pretty direct, and she took it as not kind. And she was able to identify it in the moment and say, wow, I'm upset because that wasn't so kind. But he was just being direct. And is that okay? Can I frame it with another, with maybe honesty, if that was one of her values? That's one of yours, Lisa, right? So reframing it with another value sometimes helps de-escalate. You don't have to use the same value that made you upset to try to make you not upset.
I love that. I love that. Any parting words for our community?
Just be yourself. You're wonderful human beings. You have not gotten this far in life without being that fantastic person. And if someone hands you a jacket, you have the power to choose not to wear it. Literally, you could just say, wow, look at that. That's bad behavior. It's not my jacket. I'm not feeling it. And just put it into the rubbish bin.
Awesome. Well, I love that. Thank you, Dana, for guiding us through such an important exercise before the holidays. Thank you,
We have one.
Viviana. Oh, it looks like we have
yeah. If values conflict, how to come to positive terms. You find a value you do align on. So if your value, say Lisa and I have different values and we're not aligning at all on anything, right? We want to look at a shared purpose. We always want to elevate to something that we're both going to agree on. We're going to agree to put the project ahead of our ways of doing it. We are going to agree maybe if we do have an aligned value on something that we would figure it out, right? But you never, two values clashing, it's two brick walls hitting each other. So aim higher. That's how you resolve conflict on positive terms.
And the research supports that, to find the common ground and to find something and to have some sort of shared experience to bring you closer together. So then you can maybe find that alignment in values.
Yeah, there's always connective tissue between all of us. We are all so different as women. We are all so different as people. But there's not one thing that we can't say we have something that connects us. So it's finding that tissue that binds us is that 1% that we could say, okay, now we could build from here.
Amazing. Thank you all. Have a wonderful holiday. I wish you rest and relaxation and the ability to recharge. I know most of you, we're the default caregiver. So a lot of you might be actually working even harder during the holidays, just not getting paid for it. So I hope you can carve out time for yourselves. We have another webinar in January. We've sent you a ton of communication on it as well. And so have a wonderful break, and we'll see you again in the new year.